After watching the sleeper hit anime of 2024, Sengoku Yoko, I was in the mood for some samurai games, and what would be better than playing the first game of the cult franchise of Way of the Samurai? A somewhat janky but great experience. Well, I just bought the video for you, but if you want to know what makes it feel so special, keep watching. You are not a special guy, just a random samurai, while the era of them is basically at its end. Japan has opened its borders, and who still needs them when they finally totally realized that the gun is mightier than the sword? We will all probably have the same start to the game, unless you hate women. Then you maybe won't. You see a maiden that needs saving, so you think to yourself, hey, I'm gonna save her. Will be easy enough, right? And then most likely will proceed to get your ass kicked because you're not in tune with the combat system yet. Maybe also talk some shit to the other guy and then get killed. Or maybe if you have no pride at all, you can beg for forgiveness and stay alive. This is where the best thing about the game already comes into play. You can do so many different things. It's a bit like a roguelike, even though it totally isn't. You start the game, try something out and it may kill you, and then you have learned something valuable. How strong a certain enemy can be, what this choice does, where the storyline goes, etc. Because the game is pretty damn short unless you go for every ending, since it has multiple ones, 6 in total. So you start again, and again, and again. It pulls you in with wanting to see how the storyline plays out. What happens when I go here at night? What is this guy's problem? Can I save these weak people from their fate? You have their fate in your hands. It really feels a bit ahead of its time with how you can make it your own adventure. Sure, that's nothing new. You could have played Gothic 2 or maybe some other Western RPG that kinda do it like this, but here it kinda just has that special feeling to it. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. You can kill who you want to kill, mostly. You can join who you want to join, mostly. You can just laze around and eat all the food on the ground if you want to. What's the most important thing about a samurai? His katana. And with the katana comes also the combat, which is fairly well thought out. Even though in my opinion the tutorials of the game are a bit bad at explaining it. Especially since the English version has lots of errors in its translation. In a way I think they're charming though. We all make mistakes after all, even if it's your native language. I mean, I suck at explaining too, so maybe I shouldn't complain about your tutorial, but they even give you 2 of them for the same thing. You learn how to parry and block and how to push the enemy in the first tutorial. But then later on you unlock another tutorial, but this time it's shown through a video and it is things you already kinda know. Why do I have to unlock it? Why not have it right from the start? You have a weak attack and a strong attack. Obviously the weak attack does less damage, but it's faster, for most weapons. Both can easily be blocked, but if your opponent doesn't let his guard down, you can either wait for him to attack so you can parry him, or you can kick him to throw him off balance and deal some damage. Do not keep attacking when someone is blocking, because it can destroy your blade. Above your HP bar you have little grey bars that are the durability of your steel, and whenever you attack you can see a red line going up, especially a lot when you're attacking a blocking enemy. If the red line goes all the way to the end, it just booms and takes away one of the grey bars. If all of them are gone, your katana breaks fully. Luckily there's a blacksmith that can restore those bars and can also upgrade your katana. Make it deal more damage, make it more durable, the choice is yours. This is also the only thing that you can take into next playthrough. Your upgraded weapons will stay upgraded, and you can also pick another weapon you had in that one with you, or the ones you stored at the blacksmith. There are no stats for your character, it's all about the blade. There's 40 in the game and you can get them by killing the people they belong to. See someone with a cool weapon, kill them to get their sword. Most of them also have really unique movesets and new moves to unlock. The more you use a weapon, the more new moves you unlock with them. The fights are kinda one-on-ones, even if there's a whole group of people around you. It locks onto one of them and it's shown through the blue fog above their head. But if you get too close to another guy, you may have to fight against him instead. So you don't have to be afraid that you suddenly get jumped by another guy, unless you get too close to him and the aggro switches around. If you want to have a true duel, you can play the battle mode you unlock. It's neat as a little bonus, but since I'm all alone and don't have friends, I couldn't try it out with someone else. Could be pretty fun though. You also have to pay attention to your environment. You shouldn't get yourself pushed into a corner, against a little hill or things like that, since it can be tricky to escape from. It's like a boxing match. Boxers also don't want to be cornered since it gives you less space. It's also possible to trip over corpses or chairs, so always pay attention to your feet. Did I just hear someone mention feet? Or you can pick up those chairs and throw them at enemies, but I already did that since that's not cool. It's way cooler to just use your katana. Healing items can be thrown on the ground and they always respawn when you get in and out of an area. The coolest thing is that you can kick them up from the floor and then immediately eat them without having to put away your sword and then bending over to eat them, since you don't want to bend over since an enemy maybe gets a little bit, into you by bending over. I don't know. Just be careful around the mushrooms. Some of them actually decrease your health. The game is also pretty grounded. There's nothing overly over the top, unlike some things in the later games. Sure, you got Donor, who's a black samurai who breakdances when fighting, and a big weeb who came to Japan to live like a true samurai with an afro under a bridge. I mean, if you got a chance to live in Japan as a weeb, wouldn't you want to take that too, even if you have to live under a bridge? Without a bed, just replace the samurai poster with that of a big booby anime girl and boom, the perfect place to live in. You can also cuck him kinda. But he's not the most unbelievable thing in the game. This is Tasshin, a mountain out of meat, a total Chad if you will. I mean, just look at him. And he has a wife, Murasaki, that you can flirt with since you can flirt with any girl in the game kinda, even though there's not that many. This wife actually has an affair with the ugly, corrupt police officer. How? She has a husband that's 10 times hotter, has 10 times more influence even though his influence greatly diminished over the couple last years, and well, the cop is ugly, inside and outside, just like her since she's cheating on her husband. I mean, I don't judge people based on their fetishes, and she clearly has an ugly man fetish, that should give you hope. She chose an uglier dude who maybe is hung as hell. I don't know, that's the only reason I could think of why she would do this over her husband. Maybe he's not as loving as she wants him to be, but they could get some couple therapy for it or something. So if you think you're ugly and can't get a girlfriend because of that, don't give up. There's women like this out there who would choose you, given a chance. Or she even has a fat ugly bastard fetish since the cop has a partner called Yusei who is ugly, fat and most likely also old. Maybe that's the reason why she has an affair with the cop, so she can have an affair with Yusei too. A true love triangle. I killed them all though since I do not stand for cheating. You may call me the anti-NTR police here. Maybe I'm just working undercover. It shows you that every character has a special role in this game, even if they seem a bit more like background characters at first. It's nice to wander around and suddenly being part of a scene you haven't seen before. I didn't know that this little scene existed since I never went to the shrine before at night, and then when I did I saw this whole cheating affair thing. So it's really up to you what you want to do. Want to join the Akadama clan who wants to restore the glory of the past days of the samurai? Want to join the Kuro family instead to fight against that clan? Or just don't interfere and help the people in the station out? The choice is yours. Even the choice of leaving. In my first time playing I wanted to join the Akadama clan since they saved me from getting ran over by a train. So I saw them walk this way, and instead of going left I went right, but going to the right here makes you basically end the game. I mean, good on our main character, he really doesn't want anything to do with any of this and just leaves. That's the end that fits me the most. Most of the endings are a bit unfulfilling to a degree for me, since you don't really even get a real ending cutscene, but instead you defeat your final opponent and it cuts to black, to give you some still images with text. Come on, you're telling me you can't animate 3 characters walking over a bridge? I even had to cheat really hard for this ending. Here I had to fight a whole horde of enemies with my bro who then gets stabbed and tells me to move on without him after defeating enough enemies. Sure, I can do that. Just to fight another bunch of opponents with another bro who wants me to move on to save the girl while he keeps them at bay. And then I have to fight all alone against a whole bunch of enemies. Again, exhausting all the health items around while there are just more and more coming. And then you expect a final showdown 1 vs 1 against the commander, who doesn't fight alone. Like I explained, the combat system mostly goes for one-on-ones, but sometimes you get too close to another enemy and pull the arco off him who then attacks you, so you step away and the other guy now attacks you instead. When there's multiple enemies on the screen they also love to get into the way of the camera so you can't see a real opponent attacking sometimes, and it was really frustrating here. I reached this point with almost 0 HP and thought, really? I think I could have taken him in a real one-on-one, but not like this. Especially since even in this part the enemies respawn, so it doesn't even make sense to fight them. So after a while of trying, I loaded the save state I made earlier where I wanted to take one of the bros with me since you can tell them to throw you a healing item that fully restores your health. I don't think it's possible to take Gunji with you, but I tried with Dona, just so he dies so easily against easy as hell opponents, and I thought, well, fuck. Luckily I found a little exploit where enemies are not very smart when it comes to ladders. So I could stand here and attack them so they fall down and climb again. Attack them, they fall, they climb again, over and over. All while making some save states here and there and loading them whenever I fell down or they got stuck. This method almost took me half an hour. Would not recommend. I actually regretted doing this since I could have just looked up the ending on YouTube anyways. It even gave me the rank of Ultimate Samurai. I didn't deserve it for fighting like this, but I think I deserved it for saving people who deserve to be saved. Even though I only wanted to save the girl, not her granddad too. At one point in the game I even tried to kill him. I wanted to test my limits, okay? Don't judge me. But a real samurai does not give up. You may call this cheating, I call it being smart with what the game gives me. Even though I use save state, so please don't murder me. And sadly, most of the final showdowns come down to this, where instead of having some epic 1 versus 1, it's you having to fight a big army instead. It fits the context of the story since you don't really have a big rival here, but still. It feels way cooler to fight on top of a furnace against just one guy and to also finish him off with the weapon of his hot western girlfriend than it is to kill tons of normal guys because, like I mentioned earlier, the camera goes crazy and it's just exhausting and not that much fun when it happens too often. This isn't Dynasty Warriors after all. While it's still a good game, it really feels like a prototype in a way. They got the basic construct down, but there's so many things that could have been made better, which they eventually did in the sequels. Since that's what a sequel should do. Build on top of it and refine it, add new cool things, fix the mistakes you have made in the past. And make it bigger, not too big though. These games should still feel fairly personal instead of throwing you into a huge world, but that's just my opinion. I would rather have a little world like this than a full open map that makes you moan with how big it is. It makes you feel more involved with everyone, especially after a few playthroughs to get the full picture. At first you might think the Kuru family is evil, but are they really? Why not play the storyline to see how that one plays out? Since it's so short you can really easily see it from all views and come to your own conclusion. Also, the worst thing about the game is how the camera and the controls change when you walk into a place, which luckily you never really have to fight in because the change of the controls messed up my brain badly. It's nothing new that fixed camera angles change the way you walk in the game, but here it happens immediately and I can't even describe how bad it feels. Like forward becomes backwards in a millisecond and I just hate it. I'm stupider than the average person, so maybe it won't bother you too much. Despite the flaws, it makes you want to be a samurai, and I think that's the most important thing about a game like this. We all have wished to be that special guy at least once in life. Why couldn't I have been born in Japan in 1878 to go down in history as one of the last great samurai? Obviously, if I would have been born around that time, I would have just become some random peasant who had no greater influence on life except for doing some farming without being destined to do great things. But hey, maybe the radish I planted healed some samurai so he could. It's the little strings of fate that come together to create the comfiest sweater ever to wear. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night or whatever fits your time zone. Now I will just continue to keep playing some samurai games that may or not may get a video too in the future eventually. I mean, I have to do videos for the sequels too now, right? Since we are all excited to see how much they have grown. Or maybe also regressed. Bye bye.